I fed, clothed, and loved my grandkids, while their mother was getting high. Then she came back acting like Mother of the Year. If you're watching this video, hit subscribe right now and drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from. Cause I'm about to take you on a journey that'll have you feeling every kind of way. I remember the exact moment my life changed forever. Not when my husband Marcus died in that construction accident, leaving me alone with our 8-year-old daughter. Not even when I had to figure out how to stretch his insurance money while raising Tamika on my own in our little Harlem brownstone. No, it was that cold November evening when my 17-year-old baby girl walked into our kitchen, eyes down, fingers twisted together. "Mama, I'm pregnant?" The wooden spoon I'd been stirring collard greens with clattered against the pot. My heart skipped, then hammered against my ribs like it was trying to escape. "Darius?" I asked, already knowing the answer. She nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. "He got 5 years, Mama. Drug possession with intent." I closed my eyes, steadying myself against the counter. After all my warnings, all my late-night prayers, all my double shifts at the school to keep her in dance classes and away from the streets. "What you planning to do?" I finally asked. "I want to keep it." Her voice was small but certain. "I know I messed up, but then we'll manage," I said, cutting her off. Not because I was angry, though Lord knows I was, but because in that moment, I understood this child needed certainty more than judgment. 9 months later, I held little Malcolm in my arms while Tamika slept, his tiny fingers wrapped around mine, and I felt that fierce grandmother love surge through me. "I'll help your mama raise you right," I whispered. "That's a promise." But keeping that promise got harder as Tamika started staying out late, leaving me with a colicky baby and classes to teach the next morning. I'd hear her key in the lock at 3 a.m., smell the liquor and weed clinging to her clothes when she'd kiss Malcolm good morning before crashing into bed. 3 years passed like a fever dream. Then came another bomb. I'm pregnant again. No tears this time. Just defiance in those eyes so like her father's. "Who's the daddy?" I asked, bouncing Malcolm on my hip. "Jerome, that bass player from Billy's club. Does he know?" He split when I told him. She shrugged like it didn't matter, but I saw the hurt. "Tamika Washington, what are you thinking? You already got one baby you barely take care of." "That's not fair," she exploded. "You never let me be a mother, always taking over, always knowing better, because you're acting like a child instead of raising yours." Later that night, after she'd slammed out the door, I sat in Malcolm's room watching him sleep. "Lord, give me strength," I whispered, "'cause these babies gonna need me." When little Jasmine was born, I thought maybe things would change. Jerome showed up at the hospital just long enough to sign away his rights. For a few weeks, Tamika tried, "I'll give her that." But then money started disappearing from my purse, prescription pills from the bathroom cabinet. And one night, I found a glass pipe and lighter hidden in her dresser drawer. My worst fears were coming true right before my eyes, and there wasn't a damn thing I could do to stop it. I never thought I'd be calling Child Protective Services on my own daughter. But when I found 5-year-old Malcolm trying to feed his little sister cereal while Tamika lay passed out on the couch, something in me snapped clean in two. "You need help," I said when she finally came to, pupils shrunk to pinpoints, words slurring. "Either get into treatment or get out of this house." "You always hated me," she spat, staggering to her feet. "Always thought I was nothing but a disappointment." "That's the drugs talking." "Not my baby girl." "Your baby girl?" She laughed, a hollow sound that raised the hair on my arms. "I ain't been your baby since Daddy died and you checked out. Where were you when I needed a mother, huh? Working all them extra hours, leaving me to raise myself." Her words cut deep, twisting in my chest. Maybe she was right. Maybe I had failed her first. "I'm sorry if I wasn't what you needed," I said softly. "But these children need better than what they're getting now." "Fine, I'll go." She stuffed some clothes into a backpack. "I'll come back when I get my shit together." That was the last time the children saw their mother for weeks, then months. The court date for the custody hearing came and went with no sign of Tamika. I hired a lawyer with the last of Marcus's insurance money. One night, I woke to floorboards creaking. Heart pounding, I crept downstairs to find Tamika rummaging through drawers in the dark. "What are you doing?" I whispered. Not wanting to wake the kids, she jumped, eyes wild. "Just getting some of my stuff. You could have come during daylight. The children miss you." She wouldn't look at me. "I can't do this, Mama. They deserve better." "Then get help, baby." Let me help you. It's too late. She pushed past me toward the door, pausing only to leave a note on the table. They're better off with you. 3 days later, Ms. Bennett from CPS confirmed what I already knew. Tamika had effectively abandoned her children. We started the paperwork for permanent guardianship. That night, I held both babies close, breathing in their sweet, innocent scent. Malcolm looked up at me with eyes too serious for a 5-year-old. Is Mommy coming back? He asked. I couldn't lie to him. I don't know, baby, but I promise you this, I ain't going nowhere. You promise? Jasmine echoed, her tiny fingers gripping my sleeve. Cross my heart, I said, making the motion. You're stuck with your grandma. Later, lying awake in bed, I let the tears come that I'd been holding back all day. For my lost daughter, wandering God knows where. For these babies who deserved so much more. And for myself, 57 years old, and starting the parenting journey all over again when I should have been planning for retirement. But as dawn broke through my curtains, I dried my eyes and straightened my spine. There wasn't time for self-pity in this new life of ours. These children needed stability, love, and a grandmother strong enough to be both parents now. I just prayed my heart and back were up to the task. 15 years can change everything and nothing at all. Here I am, 72 years old, with arthritic hands and a heart full to bursting with pride as I watch Malcolm adjust his tie in the hallway mirror. 6'2" now, with his grandfather's broad shoulders and his father's intense eyes, but a gentleness all his own. You sure this looks all right, Nana? He asks, fidgeting with the Windsor knot I taught him to tie last year. Boy, you look so handsome. You gonna make all them Howard University girls lose their minds, I tell him, smoothing his collar. Full academic scholarship. Your grandfather would have been strutting like a peacock. I wish he could have seen it. Malcolm's voice gets quiet. Serious. He sees. I pat his cheek, and he's proud as I am. Jasmine bounces down the stairs, all long limbs and energy at 17. That girl moves like music lives inside her bones. The acceptance letters from NYU Arts Program should be coming any day now, she sings, spinning in a circle. Ms. Winters says my portfolio is the strongest she's seen in 20 years of teaching. Not surprising, Malcolm teases, tugging one of her braids. You've been drawing on everything since you could hold a crayon. Remember when she covered the hallway wall with markers? Nana? Lord, do I ever. Took 3 coats of paint to cover that masterpiece. We laughed together. These children, who saved me as much as I saved them. After Tamika left, raising them wasn't easy. Working past retirement age to afford Malcolm's SAT prep classes. Staying up nights helping Jasmine with her dyslexia. The parent-teacher conferences where I was always the oldest person in the room by decades. But we made it work. The adoption went through when Malcolm was 7, after the required time had passed, with no contact from Tamika. We got the news about Darius dying in prison around the same time. I made sure the children knew the truth, that their mother had her demons, but that didn't mean she didn't love them in her way. Over the years, there were occasional reminders that Tamika was still out there somewhere. A Christmas card with no return address, a phone call on Malcolm's 12th birthday, clearly made from a payphone, her voice slurred and distant. Each time, she'd eventually ask for money, and when I'd gently refuse, the contact would stop again for months or years. Dinner's ready, I announce, heading toward the kitchen where I've prepared Malcolm's favorites: fried chicken, mac and cheese, and sweet potato pie to celebrate his scholarship. That's when the doorbell rings. I'll get it, Jasmine calls, skipping to the door. The silence that follows makes my heart stutter. I turn to see Jasmine frozen in the doorway, staring at someone on the porch. Malcolm moves protectively toward his sister. And then I hear it, a voice I'd know anywhere, now raspier, weathered by hard living. My babies, look how big you've gotten. I push past my grandchildren to see Tamika standing there, looking both older and younger than her 37 years. Her face is lined around the eyes, her body too thin, but her eyes are clear for the first time in decades. I'm clean, Mama, she says, meeting my gaze. 6 months now. I came to meet my children properly. Malcolm's arm goes around my shoulders. Jasmine steps slightly behind me, and in that moment, I feel the weight of 15 years of sole responsibility, of bedtime stories and doctor visits and homework help, of being both grandmother and mother when I should have been just the first. 6 months ain't 15 years, I say quietly. What exactly are you expecting to find here? Her smile falters, but she stands her ground. A chance. That's all I'm asking for. Having Tamika back in my house felt like inviting a hurricane inside. Everything went sideways the minute she walked through that door. Malcolm barely looked at her, answering her questions with single words while standing guard beside me like he thought she might try to snatch my purse. Jasmine, though that girl always had a soft heart, I watched her stealing glances at Tamika, hungry for something she'd never had. "You can stay on the couch for a few nights," I said finally, "while you look for a job." "Thank you, Mama." Tamika set her threadbare duffel bag down. "I've been going to meetings every day. Got a sponsor named Vernon. He owns that new coffee shop on 125th. He's been helping me get back on my feet." I nodded, keeping my thoughts to myself. I'd heard promises before. That first week was awkward as hell. Tamika trying too hard, asking Malcolm about college and Jasmine about her art like she had any right to that information. The kids were stiff, formal, like they were talking to a stranger at the bus stop instead of their own mother. I caught Tamika staring at the family photos on the wall, Malcolm's graduation, Jasmine's art show ribbon cutting, our trip to Virginia Beach last summer. Her fingers traced their faces behind the glass, her expression hard to read. "You did right by them," she said quietly when she realized I was watching. "Better than I ever could have." "They did most of the work themselves," I replied. "Just needed someone stable to come home to." She winced at that, but nodded. Things might have settled into some kind of peace if I hadn't overheard that phone call. I was coming back from my bedroom when I caught Tamika's hushed voice from the kitchen. "Yeah, the boy got a full ride. No, paid direct to the school. Yeah, she's got a savings account for them, probably 15 grand from what I can tell. The girl might get prize money from some art thing next month. I'm working on it. Just need more time, Ray." My blood turned to ice. Ray, not Vernon. And she was asking about money, our money. The nest egg I'd scraped together from extra tutoring jobs and tax returns meant for the kids' futures. When she hung up, I was standing in the doorway. "Who's Ray?" I asked, my voice deadly calm. Her eyes darted away. "Just a friend. Don't lie to me in my own house, Tamika. Not after everything." "It's complicated, Mama." She picked at her nails, a nervous habit from childhood. "I owe some people money. Bad people. They're threatening me. So you thought you'd come here and take what little we have? Money I saved for your children's future?" I was desperate. Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I didn't know what else to do." "You could have gone to a shelter, called a hotline. Hell, gone to the police. Instead, you show up here with your sob story about being clean, about wanting to know your kids." "I do want to know them," she cried. "That part's real." I laughed bitterly. "Nothing about you has been real since you were 16 years old." Later that night, I slipped into Tamika's room while she was in the shower. Sure enough, tucked between her clothes was a notebook. Inside, detailed notes about our schedules, the kids' bank accounts, even a list of items in the house worth pawning. At the bottom of one page, "Ray needs 20K by end of month or we're dead. V might be solution." V for Vernon, I realized. The coffee shop owner she'd mentioned. Another mark in her con. I photographed every page with my phone, then put everything back exactly as I'd found it. When she came out of the bathroom, I was in the kitchen, calmly making tea, like my entire world hadn't just been upended again. "Want some?" I offered, holding up a mug. "Sure, Mama." She smiled, and for a second, I saw my little girl in there somewhere, buried under years of bad choices. But when she reached for the cup, her sleeve rode up, and I saw the fresh track marks she'd been hiding. 6 months clean, my ass. The game was on, and this time, I wasn't playing to lose. I'd like to say I confronted Tamika right then, but that would have been foolish. When you're dealing with an addict, especially one with dangerous connections, you need a strategy. So I smiled, poured her tea, and started making plans. First thing next morning, I called my bank and moved our savings to a new account under just my name. Then I phoned my friend Lucille, who'd been a substance abuse counselor for 30 years. "I need information on someone named Ray," I told her. "Bad news. Probably a dealer." "Ray Washington?" Lucille asked. "Tall, scar across his cheek? Been in and out of Rikers?" My stomach dropped. "You know him?" "He got kicked out of our program for selling to patients. Had a girl with him." "Oh, Nora. Please don't tell me Tamika's back," I confirmed. "Claiming she's clean, but I found evidence she's working with this Ray character to get money from us." Lucille was silent for a moment. "You need to protect yourself and those kids. Ray's dangerous rumor is he put a man in the hospital over a $500 debt." After hanging up, I called my lawyer to discuss strengthening the adoption papers. just in case. While Tamika couldn't legally challenge the adoption now, I wanted ironclad protection for the kids' finances. I also needed to warn Vernon, whoever he was. If Tamika was planning to use him too, he deserved to know what he was dealing with. But before I could implement my plans, disaster walked right through my front door during Sunday dinner. We were eating in tense silence when the doorbell rang. Tamika jumped like she'd been electrocuted. "I'll get it," Malcolm said, pushing back from the table. "No!" Tamika's voice was sharp with panic. "I'll go." Too late. Malcolm had already opened the door to reveal a tall man with hard eyes and a jagged scar running from temple to jaw. "Mika, you've been ducking my calls," he said, pushing past Malcolm into our dining room. His eyes swept over us, calculating, measuring. When they landed on me, I felt a chill. This must be Grandma, and the golden children I've heard so much about. "Ray, not now," Tamika hissed, grabbing his arm. "Let's talk outside." "No rush," he smiled, revealing a gold tooth. "I'm interested in meeting the family." I stood slowly, placing myself between this man and my grandchildren. "This is a private family dinner. I'm going to have to ask you to leave." "Feisty," he laughed. "I see where Mika gets it." He turned to her, his voice hardening. "You said you'd have my money by now. You promised the kids had a fat savings account we could tap." The look on Jasmine's face broke my heart. "Is that why you came back?" she whispered to Tamika. "For our money?" "Baby, no, it's not like that." Tamika reached for her, but Jasmine jerked away. "Get out," Malcolm said, stepping forward, hands clenched into fists. "Both of you." Ray's hand moved toward his waistband, and I saw the outline of what could only be a gun. My heart nearly stopped. "Nobody's going anywhere until I get what I came for," Ray said softly. "Mika owes me 20 grand, and I've been very patient. I don't have that kind of money," I said evenly, though my knees felt like water. "And if I did, I certainly wouldn't give it to you." "Nana," Malcolm murmured in warning, his eyes on Ray's hidden weapon. Tamika moved between us. "Ray, please, give me one more week. I can get it." "I swear." The standoff seemed to last forever. Finally, Ray stepped back. "1 week," he said, "or things get ugly." He walked out, slamming the door behind him. The silence that followed was deafening. "Pack your things," I told Tamika as soon as Ray was gone. "You're not spending another night under this roof." "Mama, please." Her mascara streaked down her face as she sobbed. "He'll kill me if I don't get that money." "That's not our problem," Malcolm said coldly. "You brought that man to our door. You put Nana and Jasmine in danger." I'd never been prouder of that boy than in that moment, standing tall with his father's jawline set in determination. "You don't understand what it's like," Tamika pleaded. "The addiction, the desperation." "No, you don't understand," I cut in, my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. "These children spent 15 years wondering why they weren't enough for you to stay clean. 15 birthdays, Christmases, school plays all without their mother, and now you waltz back in here using them like ATM machines?" Jasmine had retreated to the corner, arms wrapped around herself, tears streaming silently down her face. The sight of her pain ignited something in me I hadn't felt in years, a righteous fury that burned away my fear. "I raised these children while working past retirement age," I continued, my voice steadier now. "I held them when they cried for you. I answered their questions about why Mommy didn't want them. I stretched every dollar to make sure they had opportunities you threw away. And I did it all while loving you. Praying for you, hoping someday you'd find your way back." Tamika had stopped crying, her face gone slack with shock at my outburst. "But not like this," I finished quietly. "Not coming back to steal from them. That's a line you don't get to cross." "I never meant to hurt anyone," she whispered. "But you did," Jasmine spoke up suddenly. "You hurt us just by showing up pretending to care when all you wanted was money." Tamika flinched like she'd been slapped. "Get your things and go," I repeated. "If I see Ray around here again, I'm calling the police. And if anything happens to my grandchildren, there won't be a hole deep enough for you to hide in." After she'd gone, hurrying into the night with her pathetic duffel bag, the three of us sat in stunned silence around the dinner table. "I'm sorry," I finally said. "I'm sorry you had to see that, to know that about your mother." Malcolm reached for my hand. "You have nothing to be sorry for, Nana." But that night, after they'd gone to bed, I sat alone in the dark living room and let the tears come. Not just for the danger we'd narrowly avoided, but for the daughter I'd lost long ago, for the mother these children deserved but never had. And as the tears dried, an idea began to form, not born from anger, but from love. Tough love, maybe, but love nonetheless. Tamika needed to see the truth of what she'd done, not just today, but over all these years. She needed to face it, really face it, if there was ever going to be healing for any of us. This ain't about revenge, I told myself firmly. This is about redemption. The next morning, I called Lucille again. I need to find out more about this Vernon character, I said, and then I need your help putting together an intervention. Not the kind you're thinking of, something different, something that might actually reach her where she lives. Nora Washington. What are you planning? Lucille asked, knowing that tone in my voice. Justice, I replied simply. The kind that heals instead of hurts. Finding Vernon wasn't hard. There aren't many coffee shop owners by that name in Harlem. He turned out to be a gentle-eyed man in his 40s, with locks pulled back in a neat ponytail. Sleeves rolled up to reveal sobriety tattoos marking his clean time 7 years, according to the dates. Mrs. Washington, he said when I introduced myself at his cafe. Tamika's mother. She speaks very highly of you. I bet she does, I thought, but kept my face neutral. Do you have a moment to talk privately? It's important. In his small office behind the kitchen, I laid out the truth, not to humiliate Tamika, but because this man deserved to know who he was dealing with. I showed him the photos I'd taken of her notebook, with his initials circled alongside dollar amounts. She told me she was 6 months clean, he said quietly, staring at the evidence. I've been helping her with job applications, letting her stay at my place sometimes. He hesitated, embarrassed. I loaned her money. For clothes for job interviews, she said. For gifts for her kids. How much? I asked gently. Almost $5,000 over the past month. He looked away. I know, I'm a fool, but I've been where she is. I wanted to believe she was really trying. You're not a fool for having a good heart, I assured him, but she's not clean, and that man she's involved with is dangerous. By the time I left, we had a plan. Vernon would text Tamika, asking to meet at a quiet cafe halfway between our neighborhoods. I'd be there with Malcolm and Jasmine, who had agreed to participate after I explained my intentions. This isn't about punishing her, I told them. It's about truth. All these years, she's been able to lie to herself about what she did, about the impact of her choices. She needs to see it, really see it, if there's ever going to be any healing. Malcolm was skeptical. What makes you think she'll even care? Because underneath all that addiction and denial, she's still my daughter, I said. And somewhere in there, she remembers what it means to love someone more than yourself. The next day, I gathered the evidence of Tamika's absence from her children's lives' school records, showing me as guardian. The handful of birthday cards she'd sent over 15 years, photos of milestone moments she'd missed. I added documentation of the adoption, the abandonment findings from the court, and a letter I'd written years ago but never sent, detailing what her children had accomplished despite her absence. Jasmine contributed a heartbreaking poem she'd written in 8th grade titled Mother-Shaped Hole, and Malcolm reluctantly added his college admission essay about being raised by his grandmother after his parents chose different paths. Reading their words nearly broke me all over again. On the morning of our meeting, I dressed carefully in my good church suit, the plum one that makes me look dignified despite my age. Malcolm wore a button-down shirt and slacks, looking more like a young professional than a college freshman. Jasmine chose a sundress that showed off the butterfly tattoo on her shoulder, her 18th birthday gift to herself, symbolic of transformation. Ready? I asked them as we stood on the sidewalk outside the cafe. Not really, Jasmine admitted, fidgeting with her braids, but let's do it anyway. Malcolm just nodded, jaw set in that way that reminded me so much of his grandfather. We entered to find Vernon already seated at a corner table, nervously turning his coffee cup. No sign of Tamika yet. She texted saying she's running late, he informed us, but she's coming. I squeezed his hand gratefully. Thank you for doing this. I know it's not easy. Sometimes the right thing and the easy thing ain't the same, he replied, echoing words I'd said to my own children countless times. We ordered coffee and waited, the manila folder containing 15 years of evidence sitting like a judgment between us on the table. Tamika arrived 20 minutes late, breathless and flustered. She stopped dead when she saw us all waiting. What is this? She demanded, eyes darting between us. Vernon, what's going on? Have a seat, Tamika, he said gently. We need to talk. If this is about the money, I told you I'd pay you back when— It's not about money, I interrupted. It's about truth. She stood frozen for a moment, then reluctantly slid into the empty chair. Up close, I could see the subtle signs I'd missed before the slight tremor in her hands. The two bright eyes, the sheen of sweat despite the air conditioning. She wasn't high right now, but she wasn't 6 months clean either. Your mother showed me some things, Vernon began. About Ray, about your plans. Tamika's face hardened. So you all ganged up on me? Nice, Mama. Real nice. This isn't a gang up, Jasmine said quietly. We just want honest answers for once. Like why you really came back, Malcolm added. Tamika looked trapped. I told you I wanted to reconnect while casing our house for things to pawn? I slid her notebook across the table. While asking about the kids' bank accounts? She flinched, then rallied. You went through my stuff? Don't, Vernon cut her off. Don't try to flip this around. I've been in recovery long enough to recognize the game. Something in his tone reached her. She slumped back, the fight draining out of her. Fine, Ray threatened me. I owe him money. I thought— She swallowed hard. I thought maybe I could borrow from you, from the kids, just enough to get him off my back, then I'd get clean for real. And Vernon? I asked. Was he just a Mark II? Shame flashed across her face. It started that way, but he was kind to me. I didn't want to hurt him. Yet you took $5,000 from him. I needed it, she cried. You don't know what Ray would do. I know exactly what men like Ray do, Vernon said, rolling up his sleeve to reveal an ugly scar. I've been where you are. The difference is I hit bottom and decided to climb out instead of digging deeper. I'm trying. No, you're not, Jasmine interrupted, tears in her eyes. Trying would be going to rehab before coming here. Trying would be getting clean first, not using us to solve your problems. I opened the manila folder and began laying out photos chronologically. Malcolm's first day of kindergarten, Jasmine's dance recital, holidays, graduations, ordinary moments that make up a life. These are the moments you missed, I said quietly. These are the children you left behind, who grew up wondering why they weren't enough for you to stay. Tamika's hands shook as she touched the photos. They look happy, she whispered. We were, Malcolm said. Nana made sure of that, but there was always something missing. I placed the sparse collection of birthday cards she'd sent over the years beside the photos. This is what they got from their mother. 5 cards over 15 years, always followed by phone calls asking for money. Tears slid down Tamika's face. I didn't know what to say to them. How do you explain to your kids that you're such a mess, you can't even take care of yourself? You don't, Vernon said. You get help. You get clean. Then you make amends, real ones, not excuses. For the first time since she'd returned, I saw something genuine in my daughter's eyes, real pain, real regret. Not the manipulative tears she'd used before, but something raw and true. I don't know how to fix this, she admitted, voice breaking. I don't know if it can be fixed. Maybe it can't, I said honestly, but you can still make different choices going forward. That CAF meeting broke something open in all of us. For Tamika, it was the elaborate self-deception she'd built around her addiction. For the kids, it was the fantasy that their mother might suddenly transform into the parent they'd needed. And for me, it was the wall I'd built between anger and hope. After Vernon left, the 4 of us sat in raw silence for several minutes. Finally, Tamika spoke, her voice small but steady. What happens now? That depends on you, I answered. If you're serious about making amends, it starts with getting clean. For real this time. And Ray? He won't just disappear because I decide to go to rehab. I can help with that, Malcolm said unexpectedly. My roommate's brother is a cop in narcotics. Give them Ray's full name and known locations, and they can take it from there. Tamika's eyes widened with fear. He'd kill me if he knew I snitched. He's going to kill you anyway if you don't pay him, Jasmine pointed out. At least this way, you have a chance. I watched my grandchildren handle this situation with a maturity that made my chest ache with pride. They were offering tough love and practical solutions instead of easy forgiveness or blind rejection. They'd learned what had taken me decades to understand, that loving an addict means being honest, even when it hurts. There's a bed available at Riverside Recovery, I said. Lucille called in a favor. 30-day inpatient program, followed by sober living if you complete it successfully. They can take you today. Today? Tamika looked panicked. I don't have clothes, toiletries. They provide everything you need, I assured her. This is your chance, Tamika. Maybe your last one. She looked from me to Malcolm to Jasmine, then down at the photos still spread across the table, visual evidence of all she'd missed, all she'd thrown away. "What about after?" she whispered. "If I get clean, can I be part of your lives again?" Malcolm's face remained impassive, but Jasmine reached across the table and briefly touched her mother's hand, the first voluntary contact between them. "One day at a time," she said, echoing the recovery mantra. "Let's start there." An hour later, we stood outside the brick building of Riverside Recovery. Lucille waited at the entrance, clipboard in hand. The moment had the weight of ceremony, like a baptism or funeral. "I'm scared," Tamika admitted, clutching her paperwork. "Good," I said. "Fear keeps you honest. Will you—" She hesitated. "Will you visit?" "After you've been here 2 weeks," I said firmly. "If your counselors say you're doing the work." She nodded, accepting the boundary. Then awkwardly, she opened her arms for a hug. I stepped forward and embraced my daughter for the first time in years, feeling how thin she'd become, how fragile. "Thank you, Mama," she whispered against my shoulder, "for not giving up on me, even when I deserved it." "You're still my child," I said simply. That never changed. Malcolm and Jasmine stayed back, not ready for such intimacy yet, but Jasmine offered a small wave as Tamika walked through the doors with Lucille. On the subway ride home, we sat in thoughtful silence until Jasmine spoke up. "Do you think she'll make it this time?" I considered my answer carefully. "I don't know. Addiction is powerful, but for the first time, I think she really saw what it cost her. Sometimes that's what it takes, hitting bottom hard enough that the only way left is up." "I'm not ready to forgive her," Malcolm said, staring out the window. "Nobody's asking you to," I assured him. "Forgiveness is earned, not owed, and it comes in its own time, if it comes at all." Later that night, I found Jasmine looking through the old photo albums, tracing the empty spaces where Tamika should have been. "You did good today," I told her, sitting beside her on the couch, being honest but still compassionate. "I learned from the best," she smiled, leaning her head against my shoulder. "Do you think there's a chance we could be a real family someday, with her in it?" I kissed the top of her head. "I think there's always a chance for healing, baby, but it takes time and work and truth." "And love?" she asked. "Yes," I agreed. "And love, the kind that's strong enough to say hard things. 6 months can change a person." I saw it with my own eyes when I visited Tamika at Riverside's affiliated sober living facility, where she'd moved after completing the initial program. Gone was the jittery, desperate woman who'd shown up on my doorstep. In her place stood someone I almost didn't recognize, clear-eyed, steady-handed, with a calmness about her I hadn't seen since she was a child. She'd gained healthy weight, and her skin had lost that sallow tint. "You look good," I said, meaning it. "I feel good," she replied, clearer than I have in decades. We sat in the facility's small garden, autumn leaves drifting around us. Tamika had been working as an administrative assistant at the treatment center, her first legitimate job in years. "The police picked up Ray last month," she told me. "Drug trafficking, possession of an illegal firearm. He'll be away for a long time. Are you safe now?" She nodded. "I testified against him. Scared me half to death, but my sponsor said facing fears is part of recovery." We talked for hours that day, real conversation, not manipulation or defense or accusation. She told me about her therapy, the trauma work she was doing, how she was finally processing the grief of losing her father at such a young age. "I blamed you for so long," she admitted, "for working extra hours after Daddy died, for not being around enough. It was easier than feeling the pain. I made mistakes," I acknowledged. "I was so focused on keeping a roof over our heads that I missed the signs you were struggling." "That's not on you," she said firmly. "I made my choices, bad ones, and I have to own them now." Before I left, she handed me a small box. Inside was a silver tree brooch identical to one I'd given her for her 10th birthday, which she'd pawned years ago during her addiction. "I found it at a pawn shop in Brooklyn," she explained. "Used my first paycheck to buy it back. Remember what you told me when you gave it to me? Family is like a tree's strong roots, branches reaching for the sky." I pinned it to my lapel, throat tight with emotion. "I remember. I'd like to see Malcolm and Jasmine," she said carefully. "If they're willing, just a short visit, supervised. My counselor thinks it might be good for all of us." I promised to ask them, making no guarantees. Back home, I was surprised by their response. I'll go, Malcolm said after consideration. Not for her, for me. I have questions I need answered. Jasmine nodded. Me too. And I want to see if the change is real. The following weekend, we met at a park near the sober living facility. The reunion was awkward, fragile, a delicate rebuilding of something long broken. Malcolm asked his hard questions about why she left, why drugs were more important than her children. Jasmine showed her sketchbook, including drawings from years of therapy sessions processing her abandonment. Tamika listened without defensiveness, accepting their pain without trying to minimize it. When tears came, she let them fall without using them as weapons or shields. I can't change the past, she told them. I missed your childhoods. I'll always have to live with that. But if you'll let me, I'd like to know the amazing adults you've become. No promises were made that day. No dramatic forgiveness scene like in the movies. Just small steps toward something resembling healing. As months passed, those steps continued. Tamika maintained her sobriety, kept her job, stayed in therapy. She attended Malcolm's sophomore year family weekend at Howard, sitting quietly in the back during his debate team competition, eyes shining with pride. She came to Jasmine's senior art showcase at NYU, purchasing a small watercolor with her own hard-earned money. And me, I watched it all with cautious hope. At 73, I'd seen enough of life to know there are no guarantees. Addiction is a beast that never truly dies, just sleeps. But I'd also seen enough to know that sometimes miracles happen in ordinary ways through hard work, honesty, and the courage to face your own demons. One spring afternoon, nearly 2 years after Tamika's return, the four of us sat on my porch swing. Malcolm was home from college for the weekend, Jasmine preparing for her sophomore year art exhibition. Tamika, now working as a peer counselor for women in recovery, had brought homemade lemonade and cookies. "Remember this swing, Mama?" she asked me. "Daddy built it the summer before he died." "I remember," I said, surprised she recalled that detail from her childhood. As we rocked gently in the fading light, I felt the weight of the tree brooch pinned to my cardigan. Roots and branches, pain and healing, the complicated, messy, beautiful thing that is family. Not perfect, not completely healed, but growing together towards something true. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and share your story in the comments. Your journey might inspire another queen.